You're listening to the Wedding Biz Network, the voice of the creative entrepreneur. Hey everyone, it's Andy Kushner, host of The Wedding Biz, in which I conduct in-depth and revealing interviews of icons and those who I feel are the next generation icons of the weddings and event industry, all to provide you with education and inspiration. If you missed last week's episode, it was a revisit of my original interview with Julie Novak, CEO of Party Slate from January of 2019. Very interesting interview. And today's special guest is none other than Preston Bailey, the premier international event designer for a client roster that includes celebrities, royal families, CEOs, and athletes. Preston has had a number of art installations with showcases in New York, Las Vegas, Hong Kong, Jakarta, Taiwan, London, and Macau. He is also a master educator with his PB Protege program and is the author of 7 books, 5 of which have been bestsellers. Preston has been on the show a number of times and always gives such a heartfelt interview, just as he did today. Enjoy this conversation with Preston Bailey. Preston, it's so good to have you back. It's been a while, although we have talked on your own show, Stop and Smell the Roses, which I encourage everyone to watch or listen to. But it's great to have you on this one again.
Andy, it's great to be here. How are you? How have you been?
I could just say fine, but I can't do that with you. We got to be honest. It's been a little up and down. I've been feeling kind of overwhelmed. There's a lot of events, and I think that. I'm thinking back to the very beginning of the pandemic, those first 2 months when we had nothing to do. And part of me kind of
misses that.
Yes, I do. Do you?
I know exactly what you mean. And I think first of all, the good news is that the events have started up and, everyone is excited and, we're just so overbooked. It's crazy. But also there's a very weird energy happening. I don't know if it's the same thing with you. In one, clients, they want things like yesterday. They're like, there's no waiting. It's like this impatient in getting things done. And one of the biggest issues that I'm having is, of course, getting people to work. I don't know, again, if you're going through the same thing.
You mean like issues with supply, getting people to be available, or they just don't have the same, the same sense of energy? Is that what it is, kind of?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think because everyone is so busy, a lot of people are booked, but the pandemic have created a culture of, I'm not going to work too hard anymore kind of situation.
Yeah.
I think that's what's happening. A lot of people that, normally they will go crazy, they're a little bit more relaxed about work.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's why, I think you're helping me to realize when you ask me the question, how am I doing? And I'm feeling just so overwhelmed and I feel like I'm having a little trouble keeping up. And I think it's the pace. I got used to that slower pace during the pandemic and not only do I miss it, but it's like my body kind of misses it,
Well, and even creatively, I have to admit that, of course, my entire brand is about creating work that I've never been seen before. But I think I'm having a little bit of a brain freeze.
Yeah.
The effort that before the creativity just flew out of me like water. Now I have to work on it a little bit harder. I think those year or two that we had that, this was not an issue, all of a sudden I find myself really working hard to come up with these ideas that are really wonderful and different.
To me, the creativity is a muscle, that has to be worked.
You got it 100% right. You really did.
Yeah. And so if we're not, I think from the pandemic when everything slowed down and, we just didn't have the frequency, I don't know. It's certainly not lost, but it is a muscle, I think, that has to be kind of worked and developed and built and get back into that zone again.
And again, I usually, I got my creativity from going to museums and going to the theater and, going to fashion shows. And I didn't have that for a year or two. And I think those are the places that I find my inspiration, getting out to nature, so you're right. I think that muscle got a little bit rusty. It's beginning to come alive, but it took me at least a few months to really, really concentrate and pay attention in order to create design that are new and different for the clients that I have.
Do you still do, I'm thinking of one of the tools that you did a long time and I did a while ago. I need to bring it back, the morning pages. Do you still do that?
100%. I think one of the most valuable things that I've learned from the Artist Way, which Miss Julia Cameron and her books, the fact of just taking the discipline in the morning to write 3 pages. Okay, so sometimes I cheat and write 2 pages. But the consistency is important. And, in those pages, I think it's time that you could sort of a bitch that you are annoyed about something, or that you have a great idea or some goal that you have for the future. I think this is one of the most valuable creative tools that I've ever used. I think I've been using it for the past 20 or 30 years.
Oh my God, you must have stacks and stacks and stacks of notebooks.
I do. And I try to read some of them from the past. And one of the things that I've discovered, that most of the dreams and most of the things that I wanted to do in the future, they did happen.
Wow.
They really, really did happen. So I think it's a very important tool.
Well, for people listening, just so they know what it is, if you haven't heard of it, the audience is that when you first wake up, preferably before you get into email and you get into your regular life and all of that, is that you get a notebook in front of you and a pen. You put the pen to the paper and you don't lift it off. You don't stop writing, and you just let it pour out whatever's on your mind for like you say, like 3 pages nonstop, no editing. You just let it flow. And after weeks, months of it, you kind of get it again. It's like a muscle. Eventually you get so deep, you get to your subconscious really quickly. It's such a wonderful way, like you said, to maybe just vent and also to get ideas, right? I mean, do you still get a lot of creative inspiration?
I think the venting is really important because, a lot of times we have issues that happen with our clients or with vendors or that we're not happy about. And I find that once I put it down on my papers, I can let go of it easier. If I'm having a difficult conversation. Yesterday, for instance, I had a very challenging conversation to speak with one of my clients that they were not happy with something, which happens a lot. And, and after in the morning I got up, I sort of put it down on my morning papers, and I was able to organize my thought. So by the time that I got to the phone call, which I try to make these difficult phone calls first thing in the morning.
Oh, good point.
The worst thing is, to spend the entire day that you have this thing pending over your head.
Angsting over it, right?
Oh my God. It reminds me when I was a kid and my father was about to punish me for something that I had to wait. So, I try to do my phone calls, my difficult phone calls or my challenging phone calls as early as possible and just getting rid of it. But Andy, let me ask you something. What is your morning like?
Yeah, I definitely have a routine, Preston. I mean, I tend to wake up, and I know that when I wake up, you've already been up for a couple hours from what I remember, but I wake up around 6:30 and I meditate. I do transcendental meditation for 20 minutes.
How do you meditate? Quiet, or do you use somebody talk you through it, or what's your best form of meditation?
Well, the idea of transcendental meditation is that you're given a mantra. You kind of take a class and they give you a mantra. And the idea is that you just repeat in your head real quietly or completely silently this mantra. And the idea is that, as with meditation, your mind starts to wander. And the point is to very gently, you become aware that, oh, I'm thinking about something. Let me come back to the mantra and not beat yourself up. But come back to that mantra and then keep repeating it. And then again, you find that your mind wanders, you come back. And there's just so much benefits to that. I remember one of the first things that I realized I got out of it was I became less reactive.
Right.
And I know the meditation helped me with that, but it helps to just center me. And so I start that in the morning and then I work out. I work out for about an hour. I go between weightlifting and cardio. I switch, but I'm doing something every day, but I switch every other day. And then I have a shower and then breakfast. And so by the time I sit down for work, it's maybe like 9:30. So I have like a 3 hour routine. What about you?
And again, my morning, this is my time of the day, my morning. But before I say that, I must say something you mentioned earlier about keeping your center. And I don't know if you know the spiritual teacher by the name of Michael Singer.
No, I don't.
I've been really listening to him a lot, and it certainly have helped me a lot with dealing with situation. And his philosophy, or he has several books, by the way. One of the books that I'm reading right now is The Untethered Soul, I think is the name of it, and it's about how to remain centered in difficult situations. How, and again, you certainly what you said that whenever you meditate, that's a way of you remaining centered. But what I love about him, or what he says, is that we have this voice in our head, that we create these stories and I'm going to say this and that, and the importance of listening to that voice and remaining centered in a difficult situation. I don't know. It's been really helpful for me.
Yeah, I just recently read, or I did an audio book. It's called The Big Leap, and then the author is Gay Hendricks, and he actually narrates, and he's as you can tell, he's like a brilliant psychotherapist, and he talks about how what you're saying is reminding me of this, is that we tend to come upon what he calls our upper limit,
Right.
where we kind of start to self-sabotage, where life just gets too good, or we're getting too happy, too comfortable, and we have to do something. Like to me, not to get into the whole Will Smith thing, but to me, that was an example of this guy was on top of the world. And I believe Gay Hendricks would say he hit his upper limit and he had to screw it up. He had to fuck it up,
Right. Right. And again, to answer your questions and what I do in the morning, which I think is really important to me anyway. Usually I'm up at 4:30 and I write my morning papers, let's say for the next hour until 5:30. And then usually I do some kind of a cardio. Lately I'm into rowing. So I will probably row like for an hour or two. And while I'm in a machine, of course, and while I'm rowing is when I listen to these wonderful teachers. One of the things talking about podcasts that I'm addicted to is Oprah Winfrey Super Soul Sunday.
Yeah.
And in fact, I discovered this person there. And, so usually I'm finished like around 7:30. And then, of course, I shower. So usually I'm ready to go at 8 o'clock in the morning. But I think the importance of seeking one meaning to life, let's put it that way, the importance of really reading these wonderful teachers is so essential to growth. I'm soon to become 73 years next year, and the idea of keep growing for me is a very important one.
I want to make sure that you're aware of two other shows that are on the Wedding Biz Network. First, The Business of Being Creative, hosted by founder and president of The Business of Being Creative, Sean Lowe. Sean's consulting firm is focused on providing practical advice to those in the business of being creative. Tune in every Tuesday to hear a new episode chock full of topics and advice for creative businesses. Also, check out the 2 seasons of Stop and Smell the Roses, hosted by the one and only lifestyle and event design expert, Preston Bailey. Preston speaks with such an honest voice. I know you're going to thoroughly enjoy hearing him on this unique platform. You can find both shows at theweddingbiznetwork.com or on your cell phone's podcast app for both The Business of Being Creative and Stop and Smell the Roses. I want to ask you something about that too, Preston. You are open about your age. You just mentioned you're going to be 73. You have been doing this for so long. I mean, do you think about winding down at all, slowing down? How do you keep up? There's so many questions I have about this. Like, do you always love it?
And it's interesting. I don't know. 2 Sundays ago, I had brunch with this amazing singer by the name of Sheila Jordan, and she is this jazz singer, and she's 93 years old. And she's been singing and traveling the entire world, and every 2 weekends she's in a different country. And there's something about that I feel that if you find your passion in what you do, there is no reason to quit it. And I do think that people that stop doing what they love, there's a part of that, there's a part of their soul that starts withering. So to answer your question, Clearly, I'm in an industry that constantly been changing. And there's no secret, and I've said this a million times. I've had amazing times, and I've had times that have not been that great. But the idea of rediscovering yourself, creating your designs, growth, changing, I think for me, there's no reason to quit. And hopefully, I'll be able to keep doing this until my mind, hopefully, let's face it, that I don't become senile or something, but, there's something that I keep doing because it's something wonderful. I love what I do.
But so you've never had moments where you feel kind of just tired, burnt on it? You don't ever really get there?
The answer is yes. And I think I can't imagine any business that doesn't happen. And throughout the years, my hope and desires have changed. Of course, when I first started, I wanted to be seen and wanted to get a certain amount of notoriety, which thank God, I've managed to accomplish one way or another. But now what I seek, and it's much more important to me, is that intimate connection that I have with my clients. For some reason, lately I've had which, in the past, of course, I had clients and we became friends. But recently, the part that I'm enjoying more is the moment that the clients come in and be able to listen to them and to really give them love, so to speak. And for me, that's really what I'm enjoying right now.
Gosh, it's interesting you say that, because I'm realizing as you say that I've always, like you said, I've always enjoyed connecting with the clients. However, something since the pandemic has a switch, and I need it more, and I enjoy it. I enjoy it more. It's interesting, and that spreads out. I don't know about you, but also to my friends. It's like I need more time with friends. I don't want to just do frivolous things. I just want to connect, and to me, it's all it's about now. It's really important.
And we were so separated for the pandemic. And all of a sudden, and I'm talking about heart connection, by the way, not the bullshit of trivia. I love getting together with my friends or with my clients and find out about them and, really get a little bit deeper. That you're right, I think was encouraged with the pandemic.
Do you spend a lot of time alone? We had talked about that Julia Cameron book that we mentioned, the morning pages. It's called The Artist's Way is the book. And it talks about an artist date where, once a week you have a day or a half a day just by yourself. Do you spend much alone time?
Andy, one of the most wonderful thing in my life is the time that I put aside to be alone. And as you know, it's not the easiest thing in the world in the sense that, I'm working at my office. There's people around me 5 or 6 days a week. But what I keep doing, my Sundays, I try to keep them as sacred as possible, except when I can't, of course, because I have to work or something. But, that one day that I have that I get up in the morning, go to an artist day, as I said, it could be like seeing a science fiction movie, which I happen to love. I go to the museum, or, I work up for a couple of hours. I eat all of the ice cream in the world.
Yeah.
Because it's the one day that I can eat anything that I want and not feel guilty about it. But I think that alone time is nurturing. And I think, we all sort of need to recharge by having that time for ourselves.
Yeah, that's real important. It's fun. It's interesting. You talked earlier in our talk about nature, and I'm feeling this itch to get out, like by myself, and go somewhere, some big nature, like Colorado or the ocean or something.
First of all, if I remember correctly, you're a Taurian also, right?
I'm what?
When is your birthday?
May 1st, actually coming up in a few days. Yes, Taurus.
And I really think that part of our DNA is our need to be out in nature. I think that really recharges us. And weren't you away recently? You had some wonderful trip also a few months back.
Yeah, I learned how to scuba dive. Talk about doing something new at an older age that's inspiring. I was in Florida doing scuba diving, and then I went with my new wife. I got married last November, as you know, and so.
Which I married her and I love her.
Yes.
I approve. I completely approve. Not that you need it, but I approve.
Thank you. I know we had such a good time with you. But we went to Jamaica, this beautiful resort in Jamaica for a week. And so, I find that like when we talked earlier about needing to connect more with people, with friends and with clients, I'm finding I need even more to connect with myself and to get out there, and nature for me helps me to do that. It tremendously helps.
Talking about a centering place, it really is. I mean, the idea of just running down the beach like for an hour is like just incredible to me. But yeah, it's essential.
It is. And I want to come back for a minute. You know, we're talking so much about connecting with ourselves, with our clients. What about the issue of how, because of the pandemic, we started to get into all these Zoom meetings and so much more virtual? And so everyone I'm talking to in the industry has less in-person meetings, you know, even though the pandemic is now seeming to end, or at least to wane down a lot, we're still keeping up these virtual meetings. And I don't know, Preston, I don't feel I can connect as easily when I'm on a screen as I am in person. I mean, that's important for you. How are you dealing with that?
Andy, I hated it then and I hate them now. I really, really think they're incredibly impersonal. There's a part of me that, first of all, the fact that I have a lazy eyes and that's a lazy face, even though I always feel that they're seeing something that they will not see in person. So I've become very conscious of that. So physically, I'm not comfortable with it at all.
Huh.
As you said, nothing beat than having the person sitting across the table from you to be able to make that connection. And I think Zoom, as wonderful as it was when we were locked down, should be completely discontinued. And I try to disencourage it as much as possible.
Are your clients open to taking the extra time to meet in person?
100%. Most of them are very eager to come in, thank God, to go to my office. And I try to, even if I happen to go to them, to their home, I think that in-person connection is essential.
Yeah. So before we go, what are you now looking forward to? I mean, what are you dreaming of? What is it that you haven't done that you would love to do?
How much time do you have?
Oh, I'm real interested.
I'm in the process of writing a book that is more about my experience of my spiritual experience more than my, the work that I've done. I think that there's something that about going or sharing with the world what I've learned about not only that, they're going through the difficult times and the importance of sticking with it and things get better and hope. There's something about writing that book that I'm very excited about right now.
Oh, I'm so excited to read that. What is your process for that? Are you writing a little every day, or how do you handle that you're so busy? Where do you have time for this?
Definitely write a little bit every day. Any writer in the world will tell you that nothing gets written if you don't absolutely take that hour a day that is non-negotiable, that even if you don't have anything to say, you sit down at the computer and you write something. And clearly, once I have an outline, it's just a matter of filling it in what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Well, God, Preston, I could sit here easily and talk for hours with you. So I want to keep having you on periodically. And I love when we get on the mic because we're talking about real stuff, that everybody, I think, can relate to,
Absolutely. Andy, it's always a pleasure. And thank you so much for having me again.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening to my conversation with Preston Bailey. Check out his website at prestonbailey.com. And for social media handles on Instagram, you can find him at Preston R. Bailey, and on Facebook at Preston Bailey Online. And you can find all of this in the show notes, in your cell phone's podcast app, or at our website of theweddingbiz.com. And if you can think of 3 good friends who you think would really benefit from this incredible interview, this conversation with Preston, please share it with them. And also, if you can give a top review wherever you get your podcast from, I would really appreciate that. That helps people like you find the show. And next week, we're going to have Michelle Demarie, who is also known as Miss Diamond Ring. Don't forget to subscribe on Instagram in particular to The Wedding Biz, and we'll catch you next week.